Miami Beach is one of the world's most popular tourist destinations. Millions of people come here not just for the sun, the surf, the good food, and the nightlife. They come because it's the hot spot, famous for its edgy sophistication and anything-goes reputation. But for the people who grew up here, Miami Beach was like any small town, except it was located in paradise.
My first experience in really loving Miami Beach was when my father took me to Lummis Park. And he took me gently into the ocean. And we floated and we sang and we giggled. And throughout my growing up, the ocean was a big part of my life.
Miami was a southern city. I mean, it did have some northern New York influence, but it still was a southern city where people called it Miami. And in the summer, it dried up pretty much. It was something like 1/13 the size than it is now.
I actually remember the beach as a much older city because the median age back then I think was 67 years old. Today it's 37.
My brother and I were given little aluminum skiffs when we lived on the edge of the bay, and you know, on a Saturday we could go, we had a little 3-horsepower motor on our skiff and we could go anywhere we wanted, and our mom would say, just, okay boys, be back at lunch, you know, and we were like 10, and you know, how often do moms do that anymore? But that's the way things were in those days.
It was a magical time, but we didn't know it at the time because we were kids, and it was what we did every day. When you grew up here, you didn't know what it was like to grow up in the winter in New York or Chicago or Minneapolis. You grew up in paradise.
Can't do that anymore.
Youth growing up on the beach today find themselves tourists in their own hometown.
The idea is that it's reaching to the sky because Art Deco was flamboyant.
Art Deco tour guides work year-round, leading visitors and natives alike through the world's largest historic district. Young people are learning that the place they call home had a very colorful past.
You had gangs from Chicago, you had gangs from New York, you had gangs from Long Island.
2, 1, fire.
They are also learning about what is gone, the places that were not preserved and are lost forever, except in the memories of the people who grew up here.
Fish Mary is what they called my mother, Mary Bowman. I was pretty much living on South Beach Fishing Pier from the time I was born. My mom worked catching bait there and kept them in live tanks on the pier, and people paid her a certain amount to fish all day and use live bait. If there was problems, she was known actually to throw people off the end of the pier. She would literally lift them up and throw them off the pier. There was a lot of people fishing. Back in those days, that was a huge recreation, and a lot of people loved to come there to buy their fish from us because that was fresh fish at a reasonable price, and you know, what better than fish right out of the ocean? And you know, we used to catch a lot of fish off that pier. There's no more pier here on South Beach because they bulldozed it and decided we didn't need one anymore.
I remember Lincoln Road. It was of course not just a mall, but at one time it was a highway. You could park there, you could drive there, and the shops were very first class.
We rode our bikes on Lincoln Road even though there were signs that said you shouldn't, and there were the trams on Lincoln Road back then. So we used to ride our bikes and hold on to the back of the tram. The guy would yell at us, but he would never do anything. And I remember there was a Miami Beach policeman, and he used to be on top of one of the buildings, and he would yell at us when we would ride by on our bicycles, "You kids, and I'm gonna come down and get off those bikes." But of course, he never did, and he couldn't have caught us anyways.
I remember it when it was in decline, but if you look at it today, it is so unique to have a place that you could actually walk from the bay to the ocean. You hear people say, nobody goes to Lincoln Road, there's too many people.
Miami Beach is no longer the nostalgic small-town paradise some remember. Today's youth growing up on the beach are impressed by the history, but their memories will be different.
I didn't know about this, and I've been living here for a long time, and it would have been cool to know it before, so when my family members come or something, now I can show them around.
When we think of Miami, we think of this diversity of people. After today, you know, you learn that it's not just the people, it's the place itself.
The once small town is now cosmopolitan. The local flavor is still here, but the menu of activities is definitely international.
Here, think about the experience you can have. You can get up and have breakfast in a Cuban cafe. You can then go to the beach. You can then have lunch in a great local restaurant. You can then shop in the greatest stores in the world, or you can walk on Lincoln Road, and then in the evening watch a Philharmonic performance outdoors. You can't do that anywhere else. We have really kept what makes this area so unique and so special.